Serial Experiments Lain. A name you probably recognize if you don't recognize your father. It's a cult classic anime from the turn of the century that has only become more relevant with the rise of social media. But before we get into that, let me ask you a question. Why is that your profile picture? Go ahead, I want you to mull it over and maybe type up an essay in the comments. While you do that, let me briefly summarize the show.
Technology!
Serial Experiments Lain follows a socially awkward girl boss early in her empire building. One of her classmates decides to isekai herself into the pavement, which leaves her peers scared and confused, because this same classmate is somehow sending people these creepy emails from beyond the grave. Lain didn't much care for computers, but found herself wanting to be kept in the loop. So her dad gets her a top-of-the-line system, and she slowly transforms from a shy, childish girl into an actual psychopath who might be God. Or something. Yeah, I want to be clear from the outset. The story is... Don't worry if you don't care so much about philosophical debates concerning the nature of reality. You still have a show that's fun to look at. The messy and dark look of the equipment, along with Lane's character design, will never leave my mind. It's a really cool detail that Lane's pupils are so small to show how she's off her meds. The backgrounds are incredible too. This was back when anime had just started flirting with digital animation and hadn't yet fallen into a full-on love affair with the stuff. You might find it odd to see the show shifting between two different styles of animation, but I think it's thematically consistent with all the strange imagery Lain is known for. And do I really need to mention the iconic opening?
And you don't seem to understand.
This anime is one of the top dogs when it comes to the psychological genre. I know I just memed on the philosophical aspect a second ago, but surprise, surprise, I actually do like hearing Lain and the others talk about what's real and the identity of the human self. There's a very unsettling vibe in this show, thanks in large part to the phenomenal soundtrack. It's kind of hard to explain, and it's more prevalent in certain episodes compared to others, but basically, you need to watch this show in the darkest possible room for the most immersive experience. I think this show still qualifies as a horror anime, but it's less of a kind of scary and more of a
you are not perfect. You are not perfect. You are not you.
kind of scary. There's a reason people still copy this show's whole aesthetic. I can't back up this next point, but I'm gonna say it with just enough confidence to convince you it's true. The modern analog horror scene owes its existence to Lain. Episode 9 is just a straight up creepypasta you'd find browsing YouTube at 2 a.m. Yeah, I haven't made up my mind which is more mentally ill, the show or the fans. Honestly, I don't think Lain is a Ted Kaczynski-styled, full-scale condemnation of the modern world. Back when I was young and redacted, I failed to understand the complexities of the show. But now that I'm old and autistic, I can more fully comprehend the message. You guys know the whole three-faced Japanese thing, right? Well, in the show, we get three versions of the titular character. The first is the childish Lain who struts around in bear pajamas. Usually you only see her like this in the house, but occasionally you'll notice something bear-related on her when she's in public, signaling to you that this chick is in full dork mode. She's really shy and still filled with childlike innocence that quickly deteriorates with every episode. You eventually see the online Lain, a version who acts with more confidence and expertise. But there's also another online Lain who's like a full-on femcel troll, constantly messing with the real world Lain. Every scene leaves you with another question. Was that the real world? Which characters actually exist? Have I always been mentally ill? These are questions science is too scared to answer, but Lain doesn't shy away from them. Don't get too hung up on the story though. Lukewarm take incoming. I think it's intentionally incoherent. The show wants each of us to come up with our own interpretation of a theme and apply it to ourselves. Just like how you're trying to figure out which Lain is the real Lain, you also need to be thinking about which you is the real you. Now at the start of the video, I asked about your profile pic. Whatever you chose as your avatar for YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, the pedophile one, or Facebook, it's a reflection of your true self in some small way. It's a statement by you saying this is how you want to be seen online. Lain's world has The Wired, which essentially operates like Club Penguin 2 or something, but more importantly, there's this idea that the online avatars people use are actually real, like the personas people adopt in The Wired existed even before they were created. These online personas have always been a part of who we are, whether we realized it or not. Lain always had both a confident and a mischievous side to her, even if she only viewed herself as a shy little girl. But which of these three personas is the real Lain? That's a trick question. They all are. Okay, shy Lain is not confident Lain, who is not evil Lain, who is not shy Lain, but each Lain is still Lain. It's not that these personas are fake, it's that they're focused. We all tend to act a certain way depending on the social circumstance. Does that mean we're being fake? I don't think so. You're just not displaying your full self. And that's kind of by design. We aren't meant to be some hive mind that knows every little detail about everyone. Just like we're not designed to know what's happening all around the world every second. And that's a nice segue into one of Lain's biggest warnings for the modern world. It's kind of crazy that a show which came out before social media even existed could so accurately depict being terminally online. Lain's the obvious candidate for such a title, but honestly the whole cast shows the early signs of a dark digital descent into despair. Like Lain and her friends go to a club one episode and watch some guy shoot up the place and then take his own life right in front of them. In the immediate aftermath, they seem pretty rattled and upset, but the next day they're cracking jokes about the whole thing. Being so online has no doubt caused them to become desensitized to tragic events, and all they hear and see every day are these terrible things that happen in places they probably never even been to. Being overexposed to all that stuff left them jaded and apathetic. Sound familiar? I guarantee that there are some of you watching this right now who will start smiling if I put on a video from China with a Live Lake logo. Like I already said, I don't think Lain is trying to Amish pill us, but the show is warning us of how dangerous the effects of social media can be. Now, it's not all bad. Many of these online communities can be places for you to find new friends and start to really understand what kind of person you really are. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure this is how furries got their start. If you aren't remembered, you never existed. That's a line repeated a few times in the show. By the end, no one remembers Lain, so you're left wondering if she ever existed in the first place. Now, I don't really think that she's a god or anything like that. I think she was just a troubled girl who focused too much on her online life. She started getting so involved, in fact, that she eventually started showing a side of her she never used to with the wrong group of people. This made her unrecognizable to her friends and family, but those same people arguably never knew the real Lain to begin with either. While the online world can make us more connected than ever, all that information distracts us from seeing people for who they really are. You shouldn't proclaim one aspect of yourself as the definitive you. The whole thing is you. We all change. So if you no longer live up to that self-proclaimed character-defining aspect, it'll be like you're a completely different person. And when that happens, it can feel like the true you never even existed. In conclusion, stop changing your profile pictures. I'm losing track of who's who. I think I've rambled on for long enough. Anyways, I want to hear your thoughts on the show. What's your take on the ending? Or have you never even heard of this show? Let me know, and until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Volt, and for the love of God, go outside.